Hey Georgia, let's take a look at your week 5 assignment 3 here. Got a lot of information going on here that we'll have to kind of look through, but I think that most of it is going to come in handy, especially things like the cobblestone on the floor, which I think is really nicely done on the swatch, and trying to figure out how to deal with the seating elements and things like that. Where it's all coming together, I think that I'd say overall I like what we have in place. I really like the background now that it's there, the trees, the blue, and I think it does a great job of both kind of separating itself from this main element, but also kind of mimicking it with the trees, which are the same color, and you kind of just get a nice pattern of going from one to the next to the next. I do think though that in the middle it's starting to get very, very confusing for a few reasons, and these are some things that you'll want to take a look at as you go into your final. So the first thing is that I think you need to work on getting some values in place so that you have a better idea of the structure of the forms. The problem that I'm having right now is each of these elements are all kind of the same darkness and they have the same texture. So this object runs into the chair or into the sofa, which runs into the table, which runs into the chair that's next to it. So it all just seems like one giant stream of this brown texture. So something that can help that is that if you're able to make a distinction in the values between the sides of the object, so maybe light's coming from this direction, you would have this side be kind of lighter in value. Maybe that you have the top plane be really, really light in value. Whoops, sorry. Okay. And then you would have kind of the plane that's not facing the light source be a lot darker. But I think you need to do something to separate. This is obviously an extreme. You'd still want to have some of the coloring and you still want to have the texture in place. But I think you need to do something to separate the sides of the objects and the structure of the objects so that you just have a better idea of where one thing ends and another thing starts. I think another thing that will help will be cast shadows underneath the objects. Having a little bit of some black underneath will help to kind of separate it slightly from the cobblestones and from the rug, and the rug will separate a little bit better. And I think the last thing you'll need to do, and this is going to be a big pain in the butt if you want to do it just for visual sake, is the cobblestones here, the lines that are kind of making where they link, they should kind of be working with the perspective. So they should be kind of angling in kind of this direction, and then the cobblestones would kind of be moving like this, but there would be this kind of sense that they're moving towards that specific vanishing point. And I would just focus on kind of making sure that the spines where the two bricks lead is moving towards the vanishing point. I don't really think you need to do anything to kind of conform each of these bricks to fit perspective. That would just be a headache. But I think as long as the spines, instead of just going straight up and down vertically, you have them moving in kind of this direction, it'll come across as working with the perspective of the scene. But I think what it is that you've got so much texture going on and so much brown going on that you need to do something to separate some of those elements. I almost like the chairs just being a flat brown rather than the stripes, because it creates a nice contrast and it helps to accent the cushions, which then accent the form a little bit better. But I think more than anything else, you just have to make sure you have a light source and that you're shading the objects appropriately. Everything else looks terrific, and it feels like a very, very complete composition.